so should be fun. But without wasting any more time, guys, NFC Championship, Commanders. Actually, scratch that. I don't call them the Commanders. I either call them Washington or I'll call them the Skins, what have you, because we went over this in our listeners football team. I'll accept. Who would have thought? Actually, not entirely true. Matt and I both had them in the playoffs this year, preseason, and I remember it was after the Monday night against Cincinnati. I can't remember. I think most of you guys kind of agreed, but I had said, I don't know when, but Jaden Daniels is going to take this team to a Super Bowl and probably do it within the next few years. Little did we know it may be as a rookie. What stands in his way? An Eagles team that's favored by 6 points at home at the Link. Saquon Barkley, over under 47.5, and Matt, kind of what I just was talking about. Washington's exceeded expectations, but at the same time, are we that surprised that we're here having this conversation?
I think a lot of the world is, but this particular podcast, I don't really think so. I think for whatever reason, we have been a little bit quicker, like you mentioned, on the Commanders train a little bit. And I remember we did our halfway through the season mark where we repicked the postseason. And for some reason, I threw the Commanders in the NFC Championship game. Did I have them beating the Lions to get there? No. But, I think we've been hot on this trail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it comes down to the fact that it's all about the quarterback, right? I think even as a rookie, is there another guy in the NFC you would take over him right this second? You could make an argument for a couple guys, but it's remarkable. And he did go to the right conference to have his career take off. I think if he's in the AFC right now, it's not like he would have unseated Buffalo or Kansas City in my mind. But still yet, Bass Daddy, all things equal with this game, the Eagles, they have a great chance to win. Like I said, they're favored by almost a full touchdown. The big caveat, Jalen Hurts. We saw him get hurt late against the Rams. You could tell the movement was limited. Do you think that that's going to be a thing? And if so, how, to what degree? Is this something that you think may foil their plans?
I don't think it's no big deal at all. He'll either play or else I think Kenny Pickett comes in and takes care of business just fine.
Whoa. There's no question that he's playing. But the question is how effective. We know he's kind of been on a little bit of an up and down roller coaster this year. But
that was spoken like that's a true Pittsburgh Steelers fan right there. Like, yeah, get Kenny Pickett in that championship game.
Got to get him in there, man.
Hey, he had to get there soon. He had to leave the team.
I don't want to go into Philly and play. I wouldn't want to go into Philly and play. Regardless of who you are, the fans are ruthless and horny and pissed off. Philly's just not a place you want to go, especially this time of year. I'd like to see Jaden Daniels win this game, get a new team in there representing the NFC that we haven't seen in a while, obviously. Cool rookie story, but I think the Eagles getting in, especially if they're healthy offensively and defensively, I think they're going to make the best Super Bowl represented team from the NFC. But I don't know. Should be a great game.
Farrah, bringing it over to you now. Past Daddy mentioned it. Eagles at home. That crowd is definitely one of one for some reasons, good and bad. Actually, Washington, when they went and played earlier this year in their house, it was on a Thursday night, short week, and they lost by 8 points. Do you believe that home field is a big weight in this one? Does it favor Philly, or is it potentially a bad thing? And I can explain that a little later.
Well, I think similar to what we kind of saw with the Lions game, I don't think home field advantage really means anything at this rate. It's who's coming down, who's coming and ready to play some ball. But the real question to me is, can Jalen Hurts make the plays when he needs to, right? You know, when Saquon's coming off a 205-yard rushing game against the Rams, at some point, that's not going to be a consistent 200, right? So, I mean, is Hurts going to be able to throw over 120 yards in a title game when they need him the most? I don't know. I sure hope so. 14 yards receiving from A.J. Brown's just not going to cut the chicken ultimately. So, do I think home field advantage plays a pivotal role? A little bit to an extent, but I think this Skins team, aka Commanders team, is hungry, and I think they're a little more hungry than Jalen Hurts and crew. So I like the Commanders here. I do. I think everyone's writing them off. I think deep down nobody really wants to see another Kansas City Philly Super Bowl anyway. So why not let the Commanders ruin the party and make something happen come Sunday?
Did you say they're jacking them off or writing them off?
Well, I think writing comes with jacking, so I think either or.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you make an interesting point about the Commanders. A big part of the discourse, right, is, hey, we're playing with house money now, and it goes on one side or the other, right? Either, hey, we've had a great season, we can pack it on in and call it a day, or hey, we are playing with house money. We have nothing to lose. Let's go all in. We have a great young rookie quarterback who's not afraid of the big moment, and let's see if he can do it one more time. And I think that's an interesting dichotomy as well. Muted, Brian.
Yeah, sorry, just to shoot you guys straight real quick, and you know this from previous episodes, I just feel like for whatever reason, this Philly team being at home, sometimes I don't know that that's for the best, right? I think especially when Jalen Hurts isn't playing well, and you watched his, Sunday with the Rams game, like it just gets kind of awkward in there whenever he's struggling and the crowd's real silent, and then they're booing when they're coming off the field, and it's different with Washington. Like, yes, Matthew Stafford, the Rams, great offense, hung tough, but this is another level, and we've already seen him beat this Eagles team. I know it was with Kenny Pickett for the most part, but he performed, right? He scored, I can't remember how many points. It was a good number. So I'm not sure if being at home is even a good thing right now. I'm really not. If it starts slow, I think it could backfire. And, I guess the question, Matt, is how much do we value vibes and synergy? To me, it seems like Washington is playing as one. They are kind of that hot road team, that underdog that seems to pop up every couple years. Some years it doesn't happen. Those teams are hard to beat. And you throw the records out the window and you just look at how are they playing. And they just went into Detroit, a place that I didn't think anybody could win this year. And they kind of handled them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think like you said, the vibes, the synergy, I think that it's crucial in the postseason, right? Even more so maybe than the home field advantage, like you mentioned. And the thing is, I don't want to stay on it too long, but let's throw it back to last week, right? The difference maker for the Eagles at home was strictly the weather, in my opinion. Had it not did that weird sleet snowstorm, I don't know that it would have been much of an advantage at all for the Eagles. Obviously it had an effect on Puka, things like that, and it obviously slowed down the Rams, I think, a little bit, and ultimately is maybe the deciding factor that helped them elevate over them. But you're right. Outside of that, the vibes are going to be weird. It's always tense in Philly, and frankly, I think they got to be a little nervous, right? Because you're supposed to win this game. But those are always the games, especially in division and a conference championship game. It's got to make you a little nervous, a little weird, right?
Well, and guys, if you didn't know, the Skins did lose the right guard, Cosme. He's looked at as maybe their best offensive lineman. So he goes down with the ACL last week. Does that show up against this team, Jalen Carter? I'm afraid it might. If it does, Farah, well, and that's just it. We're basically talking about, and it's crazy to say this 2 years after what he did in the Super Bowl, but the quarterback disadvantage that the Eagles seem to have against the Commanders, is that big enough to counteract the roster? Because we know the Eagles roster 2 through 53 is better than any that's left, probably, right? I mean, they've got everything you want. And going back to what we were just saying, it's just, can they get on the same page? Can they click? Can Sirianni do that as the head coach? I don't know. It makes it really challenging to predict this one.
Yeah, it does, Brian. It's tough, right? Because I think it all, I think the defense is going to come to play. I think Carter's coming, and he's gonna lock whatever he's got to, and I think Darius Slay is going to come play. I think the defense is going to show up when needed, especially when stopping that run game with Eckler and Robinson. But ultimately, I think it comes down to, can Jalen Hurts make the plays when he needs to? And I think what's kind of silence of the lamb, or however you want to call it, is that A.J. Brown and Devontae simply still have beef with Jalen, knowing that they can't get the rock when they need to the most. And I think people are shying away from, they're disliking what Saquon's given, right? Yeah, Saquon's rushing for anything from 150 to 200 plus a game. Great. It's working. But you're in an NFC title game, and at some point, you're going to run out of gas with Saquon or with a Derrick Henry. It doesn't matter. With an elite running back like that, something's got to give. So I think, can Jalen make the plays? And I think the route we're going, Jaden's just going to be able to simply outplay Jalen when he needs to the most. And I think he's more hungry. So, and who knows? Is Jalen Hurts 100% going into this title game? Nobody knows that answer other than him. So I think that's what it comes down to. Is Jalen even healthy? Is there more to the story than we know?
I don't think he is particularly healthy. And even if he was, we've discussed, it's been a struggle. Am I wrong? Maybe you guys can remember this. The year the Niners win the Super Bowl, or excuse me, go to the Super Bowl with Garoppolo. He had that run where he threw like 20 combined passes in the playoff games before that game. I kind of feel like if the Eagles are going to get this done, it's going to need to look similar. I mean, not to that extreme, but it's going to need to be Saquon Barkley running for a $150, maybe more. Maybe he does need a 200 game. I don't see Philadelphia, especially if he's restricted, if he can't move back there. Bastiati, I don't think, he's just going to be able to, with his arm, dominate this game. It's putting a lot of pressure on the talent around him, which they can handle. So many Pro Bowlers. But even still, I guess that takes us to a point where it's time to make our picks. I'll hand it off to you.
Well, to be honest with you, I really wasn't sold on the Lions all season, and I thought towards the end that their defense was kind of fraudulent. And then after they beat Minnesota, I was like, okay, they're the real deal. I really didn't see any team from the NFC getting past them, especially, I mean, I knew Washington was good, but I didn't see them going into Ford Field and completely dominating Goff and Ben Johnson. And so I don't really know shit about football, I guess. So I'm just going to go with the home team here, and I'll go with Philly. And you guys pretty much sold me on the Redskins. But whatever teams I fucking pick, it's always the opposite. So I'm going to roll with Philly. I'm not going to pick against Saquon at home after doing what he did. It's hard to pick against Jaden Daniels after going on the road and doing what he did as well. But postseason experience, I'm going to roll with that in terms of, the quarterback. Even if Hurts isn't 100% with that defense, with the running game, with the wide receivers, tight end, I just see him being able to do enough. But who knows? 31-27 Philly.
All right, Best. All right. Very interesting takes there. I like a lot what you had to say. As far as it goes when it comes for me making my choice, this is a very tough game. But vibes, right? Washington, I like what they got going on here. Believing in Jaden, and honestly, I'm a believer. Who knows, man? Maybe he's a top 3 quarterback at this point. But the fact that Jalen's going to be compromised, I think the rushing attack is going to be huge for Philly. I mean, Jalen's rushing, not the Saquon aspect of it. And what's that going to do to the tush push? Is that still going to be there? Is Saquon going to have to run it? I don't know. These are questions that we're going to have to wait and see. And obviously, Philly is the better defense for sure. But I don't know. Can Jaden keep the foot pressed down and just put the pressure on, shoot from the hip, a little bit of that gunslinger mentality, and just like kind of like Detroit would in the way that Washington did as well. If it's fourth and manageable, just keep that pressure on. Because here's the thing, also with Philly, we've talked about this throughout the season. Internally, one of the most awkward, weird, frustrating teams there is, and maybe AJ Brown's gonna have a copy of The Secret on the sideline or something, and be able to figure it out. I don't know, but I'm not confident in that. I'm not. So, guys, I'm taking the upset here. I'm going to take the Commanders. It's going to come down to the wire. I just like Jaden's confidence. 27-24, late field goal wins it. It's going to be pandemonium out there at the link.
Is AJ Brown working on his AR reading? Trying to, you know what I mean? Do good on that AR reading test?
Yeah, Bass.
Honestly,
good question.
Brian, take it off.
Yeah, no, if he is, by now, he's probably in a better place with that than he has been with receiving production, at least during these playoffs. They can't get him going. And that's just it. I think about it historically in the NFC, when you have a team like what Washington is right now, a 6 seed, and they really get hot like this, that's usually been a good omen. As far back as I can remember, there were the Packers of 2010. I believe they were a 6 seed. There were the Giants the year to follow. The Giants, actually a couple times. Even the Rams a few years ago, they were like a 4 seed. So it's hard to stop a group whenever they're this unified and the quarterback's leading the way. I think in this one Sunday, Washington's down late by, let's say, 23-21. And that's a spot where I just trust Daniels to find a way. And the Eagles at that moment, they're going to be worried, is he going to go down and kick a field goal? No, he's going to go down and score a touchdown. They're going to win this game 28-23. Send the commies to the bowl for the first time since the 80s, 90s. I'm not quite sure. I think
91 maybe?
Yeah, they might have played Buffalo, Matt, actually. I think it was Super Bowl 26 or something like that. So, hey, maybe that's a foretelling. But yeah, so that's 2 for Washington, 1 for Philly, and Breezy to go.
I think you guys all make good points. And Brian, like I said, I think when you kind of touched on is it's going to come down to the wire late. What I feel is going on right now is you have a quarterback in Jaden Daniels that's coming off back-to-back playoff dubs, throwing for almost 300 yards. I simply think there's not enough footage on Mr. Daniels for Sirianni and crew to prep for yet, since we're talking about a rookie quarterback. I like what I see from the Commanders, like what I see from McLaurin. I think that defense is just as nasty. Not as crazy as Phillies, but I think Jonathan Allen, Wagner, and crew are coming to play ball. So I like the Commanders in this, man. I think one quarterback's just going to simply outplay the other, and that's what it's going to come down to. I'm going to go 24-20 Commanders.